Okay, you've heard all about bump stocks. Let's talk about making a case for bump stocks with Joe a little bit later here.
All right. Hey, well, maybe you've heard of Mike Lindell and My Pillow. Well, his company was banned because he stands against the cancel culture mob. Our freedom of speech is just as important as our freedom of self-defense. We are thrilled to support an American company like My Pillow. So go to mypillow.com and use the code FREEMARKET3 and you'll get 66% off America's best pillow. Get a great night's sleep and enjoy the satisfaction of supporting companies fighting against cancel culture. That's mypillow.com and use the code FREEMARKET3. All right, Mr. Jamisi, I thought this bump stock thing was dead.
Yeah, and it's it's not actually dead. There's writing about the case against bump stocks, because it's not about the bump stock, it's about the lawsuit and the legal challenge, which is much bigger than just bump stocks. Because when this happened, if you remember back in March of 2019, the ATF decided that they were going to redefine a bump stock as a machine gun, and then treat it that way, and which means that they banned the possession of bump stocks. And if you possess a bump stock and you get caught with it, the maximum is $250,000 and 10 years in prison, or both of those. Wow. Because they've decided that this piece of plastic is actually a machine gun.
Gotcha.
So, and I didn't, and I had a really stupid attitude toward this when it happened, and just like a lot of gun owners have, and it's a stupid attitude. But I looked at it and said, it's a bump stock. Who cares? Hardly anybody uses those.
I was going to say, who uses
things.
it?
Yeah. And, they're in the lawsuit, they claim about 500,000 gun owners have those, which still, if there's 150 million gun owners, it's still less than 1%. But, and I thought, who cares about that? And you can't think that way. It's a dumb way to think, because these anti-gun people, of which the ATF is, I mean, it's, as Michael always says, they're a predatory agency.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
100%.
Yeah, they're not a legitimate agency that's there to fight crime. They're there to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And they will not stop. These anti-gun people absolutely will not stop.
Oh, no.
You cannot feed the beast enough to make them happy. So you should not ignore that kind of stuff. So the Gun Owners of America and the Gun Owners Foundation brought a lawsuit against those to challenge that, or against the ATF to challenge that. And what they were saying was ATF did not have the authority to redefine a law, basically, from Congress, and just say that, okay, we're defining this piece of plastic as a machine gun, because it's based on the Firearms Act, National Firearms Act from 1934, and then it was revised again. There's another flavor of it from '68, and again I think in '84. That's the thing that controls the machine guns and makes them illegal. And, it has to do with the separation of powers, because the Congress writes the laws, the executive branch is supposed to implement the law, and then the judicial branch is supposed to interpret the law. And ATF just went along and just essentially wrote law, basically, is what they did. And they based that on a legal term that really didn't apply to them, or at least according to Gun Owners of America and the Gun Owners Foundation. So what happened was it went to court, and probably I'm not sure when the court ruling was. I think it was probably back in 2020. But it went to court, and what they were asking for was an injunction to suspend that, basically, and say, no, you can't do that. And the judge ruled against them, so they appealed it, and they appealed it to the Sixth Circuit Court, and a 3-judge panel in the Sixth Circuit just recently, just a couple of days ago, ruled that no, in fact, a piece of plastic or a bump stock is not a machine gun, and they held for them. So now ATF has appealed to that, and they want an en banc hearing from the whole Sixth Circuit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because the Sixth Circuit's reasonably conservative. I think the breakdown, I think there's 11 Republican appointed justices on there, and 5 Democrats, something like that. So they're reasonably conservative. So, chances are reasonable that they'll rule according to the Constitution. But why it's important, it's not important for bump stocks so much. It's important to rein in that kind of an agency to say, no, you cannot do that. This is based on something that's false. And it's interesting, the 18 attorneys general from 18 different states wrote an amicus brief and submitted that in support of the gun owners position, which is really nice. I linked to it in the article, and it's really enlightening the approach they take, and they explain why ATF does not have the authority to do that. So it looks pretty good. But again, the reason to do that, or the reason the lawsuit's so important, it's not for bump stocks. It's taking away that ability of an agency like the ATF to just essentially write laws, to interpret things the way they want to. And if you think about a bump stock, I mean, it's not it's idiotic to think that to call it a machine gun.
Well, why don't you explain what is a bump stock?
I was just getting to that. Outstanding. Okay. Good lead-in question.
God,
so
I couldn't wait.
Yeah, what it is, it's essentially it's a new stock. You replace the stock on your long gun with this bump stock. And what it does is it allows you to bump fire. And bump firing is a technique that's been around for as long as they've had semi-automatic long guns. And what it is essentially is it allows the gun to move against the stationary finger. So you put the bump stock on there, you hold the gun, you shoot the gun, but you keep your finger still. So what happens is the recoil pushes the gun back against the bump stock. The bump stock sends it forward. That coming forward, it pushes the trigger against your stationary finger, and it allows you to increase the rate of fire. So that's what it is.
But I heard the accuracy is terrible.
Well, it depends. I mean, it's not, it depends on how you do it, because the thing is, you don't need a bump stock to do this. You can do this with a rubber band. You can do this with a belt loop. You can do this just by holding the gun loosely. If you look on YouTube, you'll see a bunch of videos of people doing that. And so, to say that this bump stock is a machine gun and to criminalize this behavior, just overnight.
$250,000,
yeah. And that's the, and that's the really important thing, because if they could win this suit, then that really goes a long way in reining in these agencies like ATF.
But does it end there if they win this one?
Well, again, you never know what would happen if it goes to the full en banc hearing, and if they rule in favor of them. I suppose ATF would appeal again. I guess they can always do that. It could go all the way to the Supreme Court. So it's speculation, right?
Well, and one of the other problems is if this goes through successfully, really any high-quality trigger that's trying to improve your shot, or any kind of adjustable trigger that's looking to improve your shot could be defined the same way.
See, and that's why this is important. That's why it's not just a bump stock thing, but you can't take it lightly like that either. I was mistaken for doing that. That's a foolish thing to do.
Don't ever do that again.
I'm going to try not to. But
I think most gun owners consider and Joe makes a really important point. Most gun owners consider bump stocks a novelty, ridiculous. Most serious gun owners, you don't use it for self-defense. You don't use it for.
Do you have one?
I've never. But, and I certainly wouldn't say I have one now. But no, I've never. I don't have one. But that's not the point. The point is what could happen if they end up banning this thing, or if they have the ability to ban this thing. And, people say, hey, gee, can't you guys, be reasonable? Can't gun owners be reasonable? If this thing's ridiculous, why not ban it? Well, you can't just ban something because you don't like it. You think it's ridiculous. And and just because you don't own one or even really approve of one, you still got to stand up against this kind of government intrusion. It's
I wonder what you get for a buyback. You get $150?
A skateboard, I think.
Or a skateboard?
Yeah, I don't know.
Since it's a machine gun, doesn't that rate right up there with the biggest buyback? Was it $100.50?
Should be higher value, you would think.
That's what I'm thinking.
Can't buy back your liberty, I'll tell you that.
No.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.